evening's podcast featuring local community member James Hills is a part of our initiative to help our audience learn more about local elections in their community and to make an informed decision this fall. So I'm going to pass it over to my colleague Eve to introduce our guest, James Hills.
Yeah, so thank you again, James Hills, for coming here. It's an honor to have Black Excellence. And speaking of Black Excellence, I just want to really highlight quickly some like awesome things that you have going on. One, that you're like a really strong community member and a founder of this awesome radio show, Java with Jimmy, which is amazing. And like, I just like, it seems like all your work that you're doing is very community centered, from pushing people to get vaccinated, which is something I really want to learn more about, to like you being on the task force to like to um, work on the illegal use of fireworks in Boston, which is really huge. And then also like wanted to know about like all the interviews you've done with politicians and like how you've like been able to call people in and also call people out. And so like I'm just really interested in hearing about all this amazing work you've done and like all the things you've done for our like community. And yeah.
Well, thank both of you, Athena and Eve. I want to say that first of all, it's an honor and privilege to be here with both of you queens, young queens is that. And I want to thank Quincy Roberts for the opportunity and the connection. And shout out to your group for just doing this and making people more aware around the issues to which Athena referred. My name is James Hills. I'm a 49-year-old Black male from the city of Boston, BPS graduate. Shout out to Madison Park High School, class of 1990. There is good that comes out of Madison Park. I don't care what people say. There is good that comes out of BPS. I didn't go to any of the crazy counseling, but you know, there is some good that comes out of BPS. I've had the opportunity to, well, let me go back a little bit. Born and raised in Bromley Heath housing projects. My mom had succumbed to the crack epidemic. Now when I hit my 40s, I became more open about my sexuality. But before that, you know, grew up what folks would classify now as being bullied. I wasn't the most thuggish, you know, brother, had some what would classify as effeminate or feminine ways or whatever. And so that lent to some issues that up until like within the past few months, I buried around bullying and issues with my mom and her substance use and being molested and things like that. So come from very humble beginnings, but I had a praying grandmother and I was afforded opportunities to work in the community. And from the age of about 11 years old, I started advocating for young people in my building in Bromley to have their own Christmas play. The adults came in and tried to take it over. From there, went to work in the CAVE program as a peer educator and speed things up. I've made a lot of mistakes. And the only reason it appears, and you really, Eve, almost made me blush when you said Black excellence, because as much as I'm confident in my skill set, I have never referred to and know it, but no one else has ever referred to me and what I'm doing as Black excellence. And so, Queen, I thank you for that. Um, Spent some time working in government at every level, municipal, on the city level, worked with Governor Patrick on the state level. I worked for the Bush administration for some years in the New England regional coordinator for the African American Healthy Marriage Initiative when Bush was trying to tell everybody that they need to get married. And so working in government, coming from the community has afforded me some opportunities, and I made mistakes in those. And so I'm here today from making mistakes and going into COVID. And when the governor told us that we needed to stay home on March 24th of last year, I simply went and got a cup of coffee. I had went live before, and as he referred to, called some people in and called some people out. And this platform evolved out of just having a conversation on March 24th. My mom said, "Will you be here tomorrow?" And uh, 400, 500 some odd days later, every single day, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day. And Quincy has been in the room a lot. You know, we call in the room coming on, you know, in Java. We call it the Java Cafe now. Every day, working with, talking with politicians, connecting people with food stamps, unemployment benefits, laptops when the young people, the students' laptops weren't working, just PPE and gift cards and things like that. So the platform is the platform, and it's evolved into this brand and all this wonderful stuff that looks good on camera now. For those that are listening, got a nice mic and whatnot, but we started out yelling into an iPad. And so that's just a little bit about me. And I'm here to answer any questions, give any advice, share my story where it's helped and it influenced my life, and go from there.
Oh, thank you so much. I mean, I think the platform that you mentioned, like you said, is just a really powerful way to call people in and also to share, information with the community that really isn't accessible in a lot of other places. And so, as you've kind of mentioned before, I'd love to hear about just some of maybe your favorite or most impactful interview moments. I saw that you had the chance to interview Ayanna Presley, which sounds incredible. But just anyone or any information that you got while speaking to all these people that you think was particularly impactful, that you think would continue to be impactful with whoever's watching our show now as well.
Absolutely. Ayanna, of course, and it's funny because the office reached out today and she's coming on. I'm asking them to hurry up and confirm so I can advertise it. She's coming on either tomorrow or Thursday or Friday. So shout out to my good friend and sister, the Honorable Representative Ayanna Presley. That was one of the most impactful interviews as far as brand, as far as the number of views. My likes and shares went up that day, and it was dope. She's come in a couple of other times as well. I've had, Rachel Rollins, Marty Walsh, Sonia Chang Diaz, Nick Collins, Julia Mejia, a lot of, just politicians. I think the most impactful session for me was the day, and it was actually within the past few weeks, and I'm not sure if Quincy was on or not, but the day that I was very honest about the fact that I was struggling with Java with Jimmy. I was getting in a relationship and they wanted more time and all this other stuff. And I came and said, hey, that's ending and it's good to be here. You all have basically been a resource for me. And people started sharing that, the Java Cafe and the Java fam had helped people get through brain surgery, loss of parents during COVID, just I was an emotional mess. Athena's wearing a red sweater, and I'm what they would call a high yellow brother. I was the color of her sweater because I was just so humbled. That's one of the most impactful things to me. I think as far as information, another recent interview I got to do with Dr. Thea James. She is the associate medical director at Boston Medical Center, and she has had the charge for BMC to ensure that Black and Brown people, as Eve referred, have accessibility in the information. We're not necessarily putting down your throat that you need to get the vaccination, not really. But just hearing from her, who was a medical professional that was aware of the conspiracy theories, that was aware and gave validity to some real concerns that Black and Brown people have around letting somebody put this unknown, vaccine in our body. And her authenticity and her realness about that was one of the most impactful interviews when it comes to walking away with information, as you asked, Athena, because I think people that watched that video got to see a sister that was very real about, she's in the medical industry. She's like the associate medical director at BMC. Like, how much more prominent can you be and have access to information? She's like, I'm good, because I interviewed her a few weeks before that at a vaccination site, and she had just kind of got it, but she was very real about her hesitancy. So that's I think two of the most impactful interviews. Ayanna will always probably be my number one, but I'm looking forward to others. I'm looking to interview you all one day and find out what it is that you are doing some years from now, and have you come on and be guests. So that may wind up being one of the most impactful interviews.
So thank you again. Oh, sorry, Athena. Go ahead.
No, it's fine.
Um, I know we're still like going through this like basically double pandemic with the COVID, and then anti-Blackness, which that one's been around for forever, sadly. So I just wanted to know about what your thoughts were a little bit more about people taking or not taking the vaccine, especially in particular Black people. I know you hinted a little bit about like some of the work you're doing, and maybe like expanding a little bit more on that. I know for me it was when I was able to get the vaccine, it was like a huge moment. I was crying because I was like, oh, I got access to medical care for the first time. But
Absolutely.
I know a lot of my friends, like a lot of my Black friends, like especially in Memphis, they were like, "We're not taking that crap. We're not doing that. We know what this is about, and they're gonna try to do something to us." But I couldn't figure out a way to convince them. You know, even my
It's
own parents.
it's a reality for a lot of us that are Black and brown. I would say more so for men. Men, and then to be very honest and transparent with you, I'm a gay Black male, and there's a whole subset of men within the LGBTQI community, if they identify as men or have sort of the stereotypical male traits, that they're not going to go to the doctor anyway. And then in a world pandemic. So to name that as well, being Black and brown, I have to cut our time short. I shared with Quincy that I have to go up to the hospital. My Black sister, I don't think is getting the best medical care. You know what I mean? And so all of that to say that one of the things that was interesting for me when they started talking about the vaccine is because I worked in the medical industry for some years, and because I had been an HIV and AIDS educator some years ago, I was aware of some of the science behind antiviral sort of science, for lack of better words. And so I knew that there was a foundation already in place. Dr. Fauci was involved, you know what I mean? And so when this novel, let's keep it real, novel means new, it's unknown, even though it's COVID-19 and they've had other COVID type viruses, 18, whatever years, that they've happened. This one was different because of all we know about the transition from the animal, all the conspiracy theories, all of that. Speaking of conspiracy theories, that is one of the things that worked against us. At first, remember, we thought that we couldn't get it. There was jokes out there that our melanin protected us. And then, oh boy, the chocolate brother, Idris, he got it. And then everybody, well, first Tom Hanks got it, and then it became real. And then Black and brown folks was like, ooh, Idris got it. And so the conspiracy theories, and let me back up a little bit. Valid, Tuskegee, what white doctors in the OBGYN arena did to just destroy women's bodies, to learn about, women's bodies and whatnot. The valid concerns that Black and brown people have about not trusting medicine are also real. However, since then, we've been able to infiltrate. We have wonderful queens and kings that have went into the scientific area and the medical industry, and they are in there. And while let's just name all skin don't mean kin, we just are more inclined to trust people that look like us. And then if we hear an identification with our story, we're more open to hearing them. And so all of that to say, to speed things up, I am aware of the vaccine and its impact, but I was hesitant. I was very hesitant. I also knew that my influence and role in the community, being public about the vaccine, can have influence. And somewhere along the line, I think when my mom got it, a couple of people that I look up to and mentors, they got it, and they're very skeptical. One of my mentors is very connected to science and doctors, and we were just checking back and forth, and then he got it. And then one of my boys, who's like one of the woke, one of them real woke type of brothers, like he sleeps with his eyes open type of woke. He said he got it. I said, okay, now let me just go do a little more research. And I decided to get it. And I worked with the health commission. They recorded it and did some marketing or whatever. The availability, I think that they have done well. They've improved. But we have to, as Black and brown people, I think, do better at least being able to listen. We automatically, rightfully so in some cases, we put a brick wall up because they're like, last time you all came to us about this, last time you all came to us about that, didn't turn out so well. You know what I mean? So there is validity in the concerns. And to sum things up, the work that I've done, I've had the opportunity through this platform to get grants, have a 501c3. Shout out to the Louis D. Brown Peace Institute. They're a nonprofit. And I was able to get funding to give out gift cards. I was able to work with Lyft, hopefully soon to be, well, hopefully we'll be making that announcement soon. I was able to get Lyft codes to give people the opportunity to go to their doctors, to get food, to kids to go to their parents' house if they could, to check on them. And I created, a couple of commercials and things like that to have people that look like us, people that are known from the community, people that may not be that well known, but about 8 blocks of Roxbury know who they are. So, using that influence to create commercials, I did a track with one of the rappers from Boston. He kept it very real, talking about he don't know if the CMOS is going to work against the Rona. You know what I mean? So he kept it very real. So that's sort of the work that I've been able to, I would say, shepherd, because it's been done in collaboration with the community. I would not be impactful if it wasn't for those that I serve.
Yeah, thank you so much. I have a degree in biology and I'm in the public health field.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's like I definitely feel that on the like you have all these facts and knowledge that you can kind of share with folks, but it's really about like actually being able to connect with the community. So I'm so appreciative of your ability to do that and your willingness to do that as well. And I think another project that Building Audacity is working on right now is actually our Got Back program. And so we're working with youth to kind of promote vaccination rates, particularly in the youth population and in other like vaccine hesitant groups. And just kind of like speaking to the youth that we're working with, I feel like something that I've noticed a lot is that this is sort of, I don't know, just COVID as well as Eve mentioned, kind of this double pandemic of also anti-Black racism is the first time that they've been kind of exposed to inequity on such a mass scale. And so thinking about that in these, past year and a half of just so much coming to the surface and these youth being able to see that and interact with that in a very tangible way, paired with, this historic election that we have coming up in the middle of a global pandemic. I'm curious kind of what your thoughts are on how these youth should be engaging with politicians and these mayoral candidates, like how they can be civically engaged, what the questions that they should be asking are, and how they can really kind of like take this really horrible experience and kind of, make demands of the people that are supposed to be serving them.
And to answer that, I'm probably going to be all over the place because it's an area that I'm very passionate about. I am almost 50 years old, but I will always be a youth worker in my heart, and I hate adultism. And so, what I will say is, in reference to, we were in COVID, and a lot of the Black and Brown issues that impact us, social determinants of health, the impact of the economy, systemic racism, just pure, let's keep it 100, white supremacy, and the fact that though my level of melanin is a little bit less than some others, I'm enough that if I get pulled over, they're going to think I'm something, you know what I mean, of color, you know what I mean? So with all of that being said, everything that was going on that was impacting us, systemic racism, just by how we appear and our level of melanin, and a realization post George Floyd, the observation of that 8 minutes, some say 9 minutes, and whatever the time was that it took for that man to kill him, something happened. We were in COVID. A lot of the adults didn't know what was going on. I'll just keep it 100 here in the city of Boston. Black and brown Boston is not as unified as we should, and I don't use should a lot. So when I'm intentionally saying should, we should be in a world pandemic. Post George Floyd, it wasn't people my age, 40 and 30, that got to, well, maybe some 30-year-olds that got together and said, hey, we're in a world pandemic. And now, after watching for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, that the entire world was able to observe and see this knee on this man's neck, it was you all, young people, that went out and got the charge started. Do we need to do better at some intergenerational lesson sharing, energy giving, specifically here in Boston? Yes. To answer your question, I did all of that talking. To answer your question, you all need to keep the torch, take the torch. For those of you that will pass it, hold on to the torch with them and get the wisdom and knowledge. I got a Christian background, former preacher. The Bible talks about he's called the old, called the young because they're strong, and called the old because they know the way. I started off by saying to you all, I appear as this person of Black excellence, not from book knowledge or whatever, just waking up one day and being wonderful. No, I've fallen on my face a lot. And so I said that to say that we as the old heads don't always have it right, but we have some experiences that can help young people inform strategy. You all have the energy. You all were out there, masked, unmasked, and pushing the charge, and opened up this proverbial window for us to get things through around race reckoning. I don't know how much you're aware of the qualified immunity bill and things that were going up. Public health, Dana, you move in that arena. Public health, when it comes to Black and brown issues and social determinants of health and whatnot, have never been on the forefront and beeping on that radar like it has now. You all are going to be the catalyst in this city and around the world for the movement and for the final push through that window. That proverbial window is closing, if you really think about it. And so, what I would say to young people in Boston, if you are at the age that you are eligible to vote in September for the primary, you need to register to vote. It takes queens like you all, let's keep it 100, to use your power, presumably hetero, whatever, to you, whatever your case, use your power and your little sass to get people to register to vote, talk to brothers, talk to sisters, family members, get them to vote, get them to register to vote, and then to get them out to vote. The questions that the young people need to ask, when you first said that, I said, I'm not going to answer that because that should come from you all. However, what I would say is go to these politicians and ask them, why are they running? What have they done? And what are they going to do different? And how much of a voice how much of your voice, the young person talking to the politician, how much of your voice will be engaged off season? And what I mean by off season is when it's not an election year. Am I only going to get an email when you're having a fundraiser? Am I only going to get an email? And I only get an email if I contribute to your campaign or if I call your office and they snatch the email, and then all of a sudden I'm getting all your campaign events. Y'all get me started, Jesus.
Wow, you're amazing. And I just really quickly before I say anything else, I really appreciate how like honest you are, about like, oh, I actually struggled doing this or had a period
Still,
of this. And
still,
like, yeah, so that I don't know, you make it more realistic and humanizing, So I know a lot of people present themselves like, I'm perfect, everything always goes smoothly, but it's like I know that's not the reality, So I really like that. And so our last question is, I know that you have an urban farm that's really awesome, and it I kind of want to hear a little bit more about that, and then also ask you a little bit of advice for some of the work I'm doing. So starting in like last July, I started making like meals for homeless folks near Mass Ave who were, they're experiencing homelessness and drug addiction. And so what I was doing was basically just making meals that weren't like, they're nutritious, but they're not like gross. So like, I know like people, and sometimes they don't want a salad, maybe like a sandwich is yummy with like something on the side. So like something nutritional, but also good that like we would want to eat. And then also putting them in biodegradable containers so there's no negative impact towards the environment. And then with that, not just like providing meals, but also like engaging in conversation to build community. I know like from what they've told me, and also what I've like learned from like, interviews that have been done online, like, like not feeling cared or loved for, is depressing. And also I learned that like it also pushes addiction further. So it's like having conversations easy, like that's not really not hard. And it's also like distributing your resources is really easy too. And so I just wonder if you have any advice for my work when I'm doing this, and just in general. I know I don't have time to like give you as many details, but that's basically what I'm doing: providing resources, mainly meals, and then but also engaging in conversation, because like I don't want them to feel like I'm just like throwing meals at you and then leaving, which I know a lot of groups do that, and they're like,
yep,
it's like weird. And
yep.
so yeah, sorry, that was long-winded.
No, you're good. Just remind me of the first part because I got caught up in the last part because I heard your passion. What was the
So,
first part you were saying as part of the last question? Oh,
so
the urban farm, Jesus. So
yeah,
first of all,
yeah.
Quincy hyped up. I got 2 plots in a community garden up the street that are all of probably equal, I don't know, maybe 12 by 8 feet. So I don't have an urban farm. I'm not an urban farmer running around here in a pair of overalls or whatever. I would like a pair because they're coming back in style. But no, I don't have an urban farm. I just have the ability, and I'm going to try to go through everything visually. I have some flowers. I have spearmint, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, cayenne peppers, assorted color peppers. I don't know what the proper name is. Some hot peppers. Um, um, lemon thyme, lemon balm, collard greens, cucumbers, and that's one bed. And then in the other bed, I have parsley, cilantro, cucumbers, 2 different types of actually total got three different type of cucumbers, 3 different type of tomatoes, um, 4 different type of peppers, kale, and more collards in that bed. And I think that's it. That's
That's a whole farmer's market right there.
that is not a whole farmer's market.
Exactly. What Quincy said in the chat.
I got some
Yeah.
So
chickens
urban
and
farms
some
there.
and I mean, okay, maybe an urban farm, but I'm thinking, I'm old school. So a farm, I'm thinking land and acres. I need 40 acres and a mule if you're going to tell me I have a farm. Shoot, no, sir. But yeah, it's my first time doing it. It is definitely the timing of it is good because the gardening, I'm calling it gardening. The gardening has really become a space for mental health for me. And so enough about me and that. The thing I wanted to say to you, Eve and Athena, you moving into public health space is one to always remember it's never about you. I'm going to be very real with you all. It's never about you. This work is thankless. And as much as you will be selfless, you have to be selfish. You have to be selfish. I am now the weight that I am. I mean, I'm kind of glad I lost some weight, but I lost weight through stress and being so committed to this, which I consider a good thing. But I gave myself to the work and then someone, and it's to a point that where the old adage most familiar when we get ready to talk about self-care is if you were on a plane and the oxygen begins to mess up, the first thing they tell you to do is you put your oxygen mask on first because you're not going to be able to help the person next to you if you get winded. And so you have to be selfish in the form of self-care, in the form of protecting your space, in the form of protecting yourself from drama and trauma. Eve, I was out on Methadone Mile last year. I don't know if you heard about the group South End Roxbury Partnership. We shut down 93 right there on Methadone Mile. And so I was a part of that group starting up, did some media stuff for them, went live every time we went out there, and we would shut down Mass Ave and Washington Street. Very familiar with Methadone Mile. Actually, I'm supposed to have a meeting at 3:30 with someone that I just forgot about because they're taking meals out there as well. And Eve, we need to connect because I want to connect you with that group and also my little cousin that started a truck that's giving out food as well. So the connectivity is that the intersectionality, as we call it in this space, is dope. And so that's what I would say to both of you is to remember it's not about you. It's a thankless job. And as much as I get a sense that both of you will be selfless, please remember to be selfish and take care of both of yourselves and protect your space. Often people like us, if we're going to cut somebody off, if we're going to turn our ringer off, if we're not going to respond, the first thing we think is, oh, what are they going to think? What are they going to say? You got to get to a point where you don't care. Because as much as they take up space and occupy and be toxic to you, you can't allow that to keep happening. And so, and again, I'm speaking from mistakes of doing the opposite of what I just told you all. So I'm able to say it effectively now from mistakes. So I really appreciate this opportunity to be here with you all because it is definitely dope.
Yes, thank you so much. I mean, all of that advice is super appreciated, and I will definitely log it in my brain for next time that I'm struggling.
Yep, cut them off.
Like,
Love, the last thing, love is always the foundational thing, even when you have to love from a distance and love out of frustration and practice tough love. Still love, but sometimes you got to do it from a distance, and you have to sometimes practice tough love.
Yes, I love that. Thank you so much, though. This is kind of the end of our time for today, and so we really appreciate
Please
you
have
being
me back. Please have.
talking. For our viewers, we will definitely be inviting you back. So for folks who have questions or want us to expand on things that we've talked about, feel free to drop them on Building Audacity social media, in our email, on our website, wherever you find us, and we'll be sure to include them next time. Thank you again so much for joining us and for spending your time with us. And we'll see you next time, hopefully.
Absolutely. And it was my pleasure. Y'all have the email, so please get in touch with me, and looking forward to have you guys on soon as well.
Great.
Thank
Thank you. For those watching, please check out buildingaudacity.org and find Building Audacity on Facebook to follow this series and learn more about all of our different projects. Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope to see you on the next episode.